Okay, remember that they're changing my voice. I'm not gay. And if I was to die today, for example, one of the main reasons, I'd be happy to not be in the flesh here anymore has to do with them trying to mock God and people not responding to me. But I'm still being morally precise in my repetition, as we haven't come to a point where there's not some kind of logical possibility that people might obey God through me. And that comes with a romantic imperative, right? So part of doing God's work is trying to get people to obey God through me and trying to find a suitable helper. The biggest failure of mankind, outside of the general idea of not obeying God through me, of not serving God, what have you, is the specific idea of denying the bridegroom a suitable helper because of how they've bred things, right? When we look at Egypt, the Pharaoh, right, the fair reproductive cycle. Okay. The fair reproductive cycle. You people have unfair reproductive cycles. And it very much disgusts me and infuriates me that you pretend that your propaganda cycles are legitimate. Every jock, every emo, every corporate person, every square, every cop, anything you can think of that's of this world. Every Christian, Muslim, Jew, they're all worldly. They all had a choice to not be a bitch. They chose to be a worldly person instead. They chose to be too afraid to do what's right. It's a choice they made. Even the word choice, you have see, ho, ice. See, ho, ice, and house, ho, use, ho, me. So on and so forth. The wordplay, home. And they say, get yourself together. They're saying getting who you truly are and destroying your soul to get her. And she wants a house. And she's a hoe. You can't make a hoe a housewife, and you can't make a home in this planet. Only my parents really could do it. As far as the eye can see, my parents, my grandparents, things like this, right? Everyone else couldn't do it because they weren't in the Royal African Falcon Martial Art Order, and because they weren't obeying God through the Royal African Falcon Martial Art Order. Now, it's sad that you people don't want to admit that when there's like 2.5 billion people in the world that say that they're Christians. There's like 1.7 or so billion that say that they're Muslims, and there's like several hundred million Jews or something, or whatever the number is. The majority of people on this planet right now say that they're from an Abrahamic faith. But they don't understand why I'm right about that. And this is the type of thing that if you don't understand that, there's no point in like talking about anything else. If you don't understand the divine order, you don't understand what true love is, what a valid marriage is, like, what's the point? What's the point of you going to church? You don't understand that. Why are you going to church? Just to be a groupie? That's why they say narrow is the way to life. Everyone else you see making videos on YouTube, I guarantee you they don't understand these things, because to understand them is to not make the mistakes that they're making. So let's look at Revelation 18, Lament over Fallen Babylon. After this I saw another angel come down from heaven. He had great authority, and the earth was illuminated by his splendor. So this is an angel that's not playing. The first angel is kind of calm, he's explaining it to him, and he's saying, yeah, that's what it is. It's a very serious situation. Okay. This angel has great authority. It's illuminated with his splendor, with moral precision, with moral intensity. It's illuminated with righteousness, the splendor of righteousness. With a mighty voice, with mighty actions, he shouted, he communicated, fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great. She has become a dwelling place for demons and a haunt for every impure spirit. Now think about Babylon as the world, right? The world system, the world spirit. Think about Babylon as the most attractive female on the planet. Okay. She's not great. Right? She's a hoe. She's not obeying God through me. So she's become a dwelling place for demons and a haunt for every impure spirit. Okay, and that includes their marriage. Think about every marriage but my parents right now. What is it? It's fallen. It's a dwelling place for demons. It's a haunt for every impure spirit. Their churches, their marriages, their nations, their militaries, their martial arts schools, you name it. a haunt. They're cursed, a haunt. The alpha hunts, the haunt. A hunt, haunt. Scrambled. For every unclean bird, a haunt for every detestable animal. For all the nations have drunk the maddening wine of her adulteries. Now some of you might start crying like a racist gay person, a racist Jew, a racist white person, saying, it doesn't work like that. You're not supposed to do that. In your own book, genius, it says that there will come a time when I speak plainly. In your own book, it says that. So in Revelation 18, it's not so plain, and I'm speaking plainly. Thank you. And yes, my authority is greater than how your system works, you stupid fuck. Like I got to explain this to you lesser forms of life. Okay. It says, for all the nations have drunk the maddening wine of her adulteries. The kings of the earth committed adultery with her, and the merchants of the earth grew rich from her excessive luxuries. Now, am I talking to a retarded gentleman or female? 20 years ago, 100 years ago, who is just retarded and it's not their fault? No. I'm talking to people who went mad because they kept sinning and they kept choosing to sin and they kept encouraging sin. So it's fair for me to call them names, to say that they're dumb fucks, to say they're stupid fucks, say that's what you get, you punk ass bitch. No, your system means nothing. It's fair for me to say these things for so many reasons. You fucking idiots have gone mad from sinning like worms. See the video I posted before this if you need more clarity on that. The next section says, warning to escape Babylon's judgment. Now, your book warned you, and billions of you claim to be Christians, Muslims, and Jews. Jews shouldn't need to read Revelation 18 because they have Isaiah 66 and so on and so forth. Isaiah chapter 1 says, stop doing what you're doing, or there's going to be hell to pay. Deuteronomy, etc., Leviticus. If you don't follow the covenant, there's going to be hell to pay. You don't magically get to go to heaven just because you're a Jew. If you don't obey God through me, there's going to be hell to pay. You should know that already. Amos 9:7. Are you not the same as the Cushites unto me, O children of Israel? There's countless examples. Proverbs 17, right? A prudent servant will rule over a disgraceful son, but I'm a servant of God, not of the Jews. I'm ruling over them by default. The Bible says, rule in the midst of your enemies. They go, no, you don't have an official position. No, you're not a chief rabbi. Does that help them? No. It just makes it worse. Because how God works is what matters, not how your LGBT fairy system works. You imagine these people going on TV, right? Whoever the shoe may fit, Jew, Gentile, gay, whoever. And they paint a fairy depiction of God Almighty. And they compare it to my Royal African Falcon martial art order argument. They argue that Harry Potter, dressed like a fairy, is magically a valid representation of that which is sacred and divine. No. That is stupid as hell. And that's part of what it means to be in Babylon's system, a system of thinking, a train of thought. Training in your system, a train of thought. Then I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people, so that you will not share in her sins. For her sins are piled up to heaven, and God has remembered her crimes. What do you think they're talking about? Your psychology in church? They're talking about Peter Pan, clicking his heels and, go to Neverland and magically you're saved. And you don't have to do what's right. It's stupid. They're talking about some worm, some kind of new age light worker, some empath posing as a Christian saying, don't judge, looking dumber than hell, looking shallow as hell, basic, stupid, foolish, out of touch, senseless, careless, carefree, just dumb, ditzy, bimbo, dumb. That's not what it's talking about. And it goes on to say something that overkills, and I'm right to say this. It says, give back to her as she has given. Pay her back double for what she has done. Pour her a double portion from her own cup, so she's going to go crazier and crazier, and her life's going to be worth less and less. He's already a dwelling place for demons and a haunt for every impure spirit, every unclean bird, every detestable animal. She's an unclean pigeon. She's a dumb slut, male and female alike. And a mighty angel with great authority is saying that she's fallen. And another voice comes out, and it says that she must suffer to the extreme. In their own book, set testifying against themselves in their own book. The devil laughing, the devil loves to brag. It loves to get you to sell your soul and say, now you're going to suffer, sucker. So you thought he was wrong? What, you thought the top martial arts ever was magically wrong, and that all these racist people, these whites, Jews, LGBT, and people, all these people in the military running SOPs, you thought they were right? You thought Sergeant Slaughter sucking off Harry Potter was right? What the fuck don't you get? Give her as much torment and grief as the glory and luxury she gave herself. She's like, look, he's just an N-word. Yeah, he's just a black guy, guys. Come on, guys. Come on. Oh, boy. I, too, will laugh when calamity strikes. Proverbs 1. As the glory and luxury she gave herself. In her heart she boasts, I sit enthroned as queen. I am not a widow, I will never mourn. Imagine a bitch so fucking stupid that she's like, hey guys, I'm hooked to a machine. I'm somebody's bitch. I have plenty of blood money. I'm drinking the blood on the money, and in the money, the essence of the blood money from my cup. You know how fucking retarded that is? She's like, well, at least I have a Mercedes. At least I live on an estate. At least. They say dumb shit like that. Well, no one's ever heard of you. When their own book says, woe to you when all men speak well of you, because that's how their ancestors spoke of the false prophets. Whether that's in the Old Testament like that or not, it's in the Old Testament like that. Okay? Because that's like the basic, that's a basic fundamental part of it. A bunch of bootlickers worshiping Baal and Asherah, and they're saying, oh, you're so great for doing the wrong thing, okay? It's there. Yeah, these people who are from Judeo-Christian cultures, and they say it doesn't work like that in the Judeo-Christian system, and they want to cite their social status and their blood money when the Bible says you can't serve God and money. And even if you're not a Christian, you're some kind of bitter, almost like a reptilian looking. If a reptile was a person, that's how they look, like a lizard or a snake. You know, take that. Oh, you came so close. And they say things in a certain, like, it's like a heavy metal person who's actually hell-bent to kind of harm people. Because most heavy metal people, right, they're just weird. They're just Satanists. They're just kind of lukewarm Satanists. But every once in a while you get some serial killer, some Jeffrey Dahmer. You know, he's a good example of some reptile-looking motherfucker. Now, I don't believe in alien reptilians, right? But there's some reptile-like motherfuckers, some snakes. That's why people are called snakes. Some people really embody what that means, you know. It's in their mannerisms, the way they look, the way they treat people. They're this ruthless predator. Therefore, in one day her plagues will overtake her, death, mourning, and famine. She will be consumed by fire, for mighty is the Lord God who judges her. And let me show you why I'm right about this death, mourning, and famine, right? Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven, right? Filled with the fruit of righteousness versus the fruit of their ways, their schemes, their evil ways, and their evil schemes. Also the bread of life versus the bread of affliction. But now let's look to Proverbs 9. Let me just shoot through this chapter real quickly here. There's 18 verses. And let me explain to you why the inhabitants of the earth are in Babylon, who is a figurative woman. It's a figurative city. It's the state, the spiritual state that they're in. It's the essence of what dominates them, the prevailing tendency, the dominant characteristic of the inhabitants of the earth. And it isn't being good or being compassionate or charitable. It isn't hard work and perseverance. No, their dominant characteristic is evil. And it's pettiness, it's selfishness. It's like being a psychotic, evil, nasty slut with no sense whatsoever, who's just selfish, who rejects Christ for worms. We'll get to that. So Proverbs chapter 9. Invitations of wisdom and folly. I invite you to obey God through me while there's still time. I could die today, I could die tomorrow. I came very close to death today, and the day's still young. in terms of the death of my flesh. I'll never, ever sell my soul, ever. I'll never follow the world, ever. I'll never be gay. I'll never join the churches, mosques, synagogues. I won't have anything to do with their folly. So wisdom has built her house. She has set up its 7 pillars. Here's number 7, right? 7 abominations fill their hearts, 7 bowls, 7 trumpets. Anyway, she has prepared her meat and mixed her wine. She has also set her table. She has sent out her servants, and she calls from the highest point of the city, let all who are simple come to my house. To those who have no sense, she says, come eat my food and drink the wine I have mixed. Leave your simple ways, and you will walk in the way of insight. Remember, simple meaning gullible, morally deficient, without moral direction, what have you. So leave your immoral ways. Leave your stupid, gullible, senseless ways, and walk in the way of insight. Whoever corrects a mocker invites insult. Whoever rebukes the wicked incurs abuse. Now, this gets trickier because later on in Proverbs it tells you to correct mockers. It tells you to chastise them, to flog them, what have you. So you have to kind of reconcile the scriptures. But it goes on to say, do not rebuke mockers, or they will hate you. Rebuke the wise, and they will love you. Instruct the wise, and they will be wiser still. Teach the righteous, and they will add to their learning. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and knowledge of the Holy One is understanding. For through wisdom your days will be many, and years will be added to your life. If you are wise, your wisdom will reward you. If you are a mocker, you alone will suffer. Obviously, mockers cause other people to suffer. You have to kind of read between the lines. These are proverbs. Folly is an unruly woman. She is simple and knows nothing. Sounds like the prostitute? Yeah. She sits at the door of her house on a seat at the highest point of the city. Sounds like the prostitute? Yes. She says that she sits enthroned as queen, right? That she will never mourn. Going back to Revelation 17, verse 7. Give her as much torment and grief as the glory and luxury she gave herself. In her heart she boasts, I sit enthroned as queen. I am not a widow. I will never mourn. She's saying, hey, she doesn't believe in Royal African Falcon martial arts. She doesn't believe that mankind was created in God's image and in Africa, and that the Garden of Eden is figurative. To her, the white man's version must be right. The racist Jew must be right. When they're enslaving black people together, they must magically be right. Well, let's see what it says here. Folly is an unruly woman. She is simple and knows nothing. Verse 13. She sits at the door of her house on a seat at the highest point of the city, calling out to those who pass by, who go straight on their way. Let all who are simple come to my house. To those who have no sense, she says, stolen water is sweet. Food eaten in secret is delicious. But little do they know that the dead are there, that her guests are deep in the realm of the dead. Death, mourning, and famine. She's mourning herself and the other ones with her, and having brought down her family and her friends by her complicity. The plagues overtake her, death, mourning, and famine. She is consumed by fire, for mighty is the Lord God who judges her. Are rabbis and priests mighty? No. Was the Pope mighty? No. The Pope was not mighty. Old, cold, gold, bold, sold, told, etc. It's very foolish to think that old people who lead people astray are bold. They're not. Okay. An ancient serpent, the devil, indeed. So threefold woe over Babylon's fall. When the kings of the earth who committed adultery with her and shared her luxury see the smoke of her burning, they will weep and moan over her. Terrified by her torment, they will stand far off and cry, woe, woe to you, great city, the mighty city of Babylon. In 1 hour your doom has come. Now keep in mind that they're going to be thrown in the lake of fire as well. The beast burns her with fire. Okay, it says in Revelation 17, And in Revelation 19 and 20, we see that everyone who cheated me out of my right to lead and their spirits and their offspring are thrown into the lake of fire. The Bible says the offspring of the wicked will perish. They'll be cut off from God. We see in Zechariah, right, that wickedness, the woman wickedness has a house built for her and she's sealed in. Okay. Now, there's other things that connect to it, but that's the essence of it, really. The merchants of the earth will weep and mourn over her because no one buys their cargoes. Okay, so it goes on to talk about how they fail to the extreme because of their crafts, because of their trades. These things are figurative. These things are literal, right? The ways and the schemes. Cargoes of gold, silver, precious stones and pearls, fine linen, purple, silk and scarlet, cloth of every sort, of citron wood, and articles of every kind, made of ivory, costly wood, bronze, iron, and marble. Cargoes of cinnamon and spice, of incense, myrrh, and frankincense, of wine and olive oil, of fine flour and wheat, cattle and sheep, horses and carriages, and human beings sold as slaves. So these things connect to, the things they brought when baby Jesus in the story was born, the arguments that people had over sheep and cattle in the Bible, where they're grazing, what have you. It connects to sacrificial animals. It connects to a whole lot of things, right? The olive oil, you can write a whole book on what olive oil means, okay, and how it's processed, and the oil of joy, and on and on and on. So they will say, the fruit you long for is gone from you. All your luxury and splendor have vanished, never to be recovered. Never to be recovered. So they're being sealed. Zechariah tells us that the prostitute is sealed, and those who are inside of her. So, okay, when it says, come out of her, my people, so that you will not share in her sins, it's also sharing in her fate. Okay, God has remembered her sins, and when your souls are in that, they're in the collective kind of spirit of the devil, that you share the devil's fate. That's what it says in Revelation 19 and Revelation 20. And regardless of what the Bible says, you got to ask yourself, is it true? And you can't just trust, some book some people made. You don't know who wrote it. You got to truly understand why it's true. It's true because they're waging war against God. In life, you're going to struggle. You're going to suffer. Childbirth is painful. Imagine somebody arguing that they don't want to be persecuted, and that's their problem. Well, obviously, they're more concerned with living a long, wicked life, right? Because life is persecution. Life is a struggle. You go to work. You got to, do a bunch of things. Childbirth, is painful. Okay? You slip and fall at times. You get in car accidents. Things happen. People get beat up and robbed. Okay? What kind of a complete fool would not serve God because they're afraid to suffer? Okay? You can see in me that even though they're persecuting me, I'm much more content and happy than anyone on the planet. I have the happiest life on the planet. Just because I get angry and I chastise people and I go on and on about how they've denied me things doesn't mean I'm not happier than everyone else I am. Okay? They are slaves to sin. They are, it's like somebody working out in the gym who's proud of their body, and somebody who sits on the couch and they're a fat mess and they're ugly or whatever, right? If you take it at face value. Okay, except for I'm far more happy than those people are because they're just worldly people working out. But anyway, the person going to the gym, he's struggling all the time, right? He's working out, so on and so forth. That doesn't mean he's not happier than some slob on the couch. Think about it. So how stupid is it to say, oh, you don't want to be persecuted, so you're going to rebel against God? No, you don't truly believe, so you're rebelling against God. You're not smart enough to choose to struggle and enjoy yourself and really find happiness in serving God. That's why you're rebelling, because you're an idiot. You're a sluggard. You're a punk. Okay. So they will say, the fruit you long for is gone from you. All your luxury and splendor have vanished, never to be recovered. That includes your offspring. The merchants who said these things and gained their wealth from her will stand far off, terrified at her torment. They will weep and mourn and cry out, woe, woe to you, great city, dressed in fine linen and purple and scarlet and glittering with gold, precious stones and pearls. In 1 hour, such great wealth has been brought to ruin. That's it. Their lives are worthless. What their actions are actually saying, what their souls are saying, is that they're done because they yoked themselves to her. There's no escape. They're standing far off. No, they're not standing far off. Baal is a deity of merchants. Okay, so what it's saying when it says standing far off, they're trying to, remove themselves from the situation, but they can't. We'll get to that. Then you might say, well, how do you know? I know because I'm Christ, and I'm greater than the person who wrote this. Infinitely greater. But it's also overkill for those of you who need to see it in the Bible because you're some kind of bootlicking square. Squares are people who are like Freemasons. They follow Lucifer, and they try to look like they're doing the right thing compared to other people. That's why it's a square and compass in Masonry, right? They think inside the box. They don't transcend the world. They try to find their life in the world. They're a teacher's pet, the teacher's beast, the mark of the beast, the mark of the square. Beast is beta scrambled, and there's also brute beasts, and so on and so forth. Okay, so what does it say next? When they see the smoke of her burning, they will exclaim, was there ever a city like this great city? They will throw dust on their heads, and with weeping and mourning cry out, woe, woe to you, great city, where all who had ships on the sea became rich through her wealth. In 1 hour she has been brought to ruin. So they throw dust. Returning to the dust, they throw dust. The serpent is said to lick the dust on their heads, right? God is a whirlwind coming down on the heads of the wicked. The devil's feeding on the wicked as well. The serpents are licking the dust. They're eating these people, and they're weeping and mourning, like it says that the prostitute will, because they've yoked themselves to her. Now, when it goes on to say rejoice over her, is it saying merchants? No, because they're on the wrong side of the debate. Rejoice over her, you heavens. Rejoice, you people of God. Rejoice, apostles and prophets, for God has judged her with the judgment she imposed on you. And these people were indulging with her. They're also drunk off the blood of the saints. It talks about how, that her merchants were the world's important people. Well, we'll get to that. Okay, the world's important people include kings. Kings are merchants in their own rights. Worldly kings. We'll get to that. Let's just wrap this up here. I'm way over time here. Okay. Then a mighty angel picked up a boulder the size of a large millstone and threw it in the sea and said, with such violence, the great city of Babylon will be thrown down, never to be found again. Okay, and I would say to, the opposition view, I'd say, well, that means your offspring are going to hell. And they would argue, no, it doesn't. It doesn't say that. That's not what it says. Okay, let's go to Matthew 18, right? They're referring to why a millstone? Why throw a boulder in the sea? Why bother to do that? It's a sign, right? The prophets have signs. The angels give signs. It's a sign. Now, what does it connect to? How do you interpret it? We need wisdom and insight, right? Go to Matthew 18. The greatest in the kingdom of heaven. Again, the greatest, right? She thinks that she sits enthroned as queen. She thinks she's the greatest woman ever. She thinks her choices are the best ever or something. At that time, the disciples came to Jesus and asked, who then is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? He called a child to him and placed the child among them. And he said, truly I tell you, unless you change and become like children, like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Now, what's he talking about? Being born again. He's not talking about acting like a little brat who's a scared coward or something. He says, humble yourself, be born again, be trained by God. Cast away your worldly ways and your worldly training and your worldly system. And whoever welcomes one such child in my name welcomes me. Causing to stumble. If anyone causes one of these little ones, those who believe in me, to stumble, it would be better for them to have a large millstone hung around their neck, like hanging black people, right? They were doing that they're doing that because they're Satanists from the cult of the flesh. Like, well, we're hanging you, pal. Retards, right? Retards. And to be drowned in the depths of the sea. So it's better for them to have a large millstone hung around their neck and to be drowned in the depths of the sea. And the sea turns to blood in Revelation. The sea of people, right? The prostitute sitting by many waters. The peoples, the nations, the multitudes, and the languages. So it's better for them to literally have a large millstone hung around their neck and thrown into the sea so they can limit their depravity and burn in hell to a less degree, because each are judged according to their deeds, including their misdeeds. Okay? But it's also saying in code, if you want to call it that, because once you kind of decipher it, it's hardly a code. It's saying that what comes with it is that they're going to figuratively have a large millstone hung around them and to be thrown into the depths of the sea. Remember, the prostitute in Revelation 17 is sitting by the waters, which stands for the peoples, the nations, the multitudes, and the languages. The millstone, this reminds me like a mafia don saying he's going to bury you with the money you stole or something. The millstone stands for, them being thrown down, right? A mighty angel picked up a boulder the size of a large millstone and threw it into the sea. So with such violence, right? Because the violence is part of what they did wrong, right? As they betray the righteous, there's various forms of violence. The righteous are flogged and hung and burned and fed to the lions and sawed in pieces and crucified and so on and so forth. So with such great violence, it came down on their heads, right? So figuratively speaking, it says that millstone, okay, you're leading the children away. That millstone, you led the children away. You led the world astray by your magic spell, including the children. It's figuratively hung around your neck and you're thrown into the sea. And the sea turns to blood. You're ruined. And it's death, mourning, and famine. You're spiritually, basically, to make a long story short, right? They don't have the Spirit of God, so they're ruined. They live a pitiful life, hooked to a machine, some kind of slut, some kind of punk, and then they go to hell to burn forever. Especially because as they live like pitiful scum, they like to say things like, well, who are you? Well, I make more money than you. Well, this, and this, right? They like to act like they're important. And they like to slip into denial. But the people they've caused to suffer in a life that is short, where they believe that they only have one life to live and there's no afterlife, to the point where they defy God, which means they eternally did them wrong, okay, they suffered. And so now they're going to suffer forever. So all that is kind of condensed into a statement of saying they have a large millstone hung around their neck and they're drowned in the depths of the sea. And before figuratively speaking, before it came to that point, they were better off to have literally been drowned in the sea with a large millstone hung around their neck. That's what it's saying. And I'm being fumed right now because these people are on some bitch ass crest wearing, thinking that they're royalty type of bitch shit, corporate bitch shit, Freemasonic bitch shit, I have a fancy degree type of college bitch. They're on some bitch ass, Ebert, Tesla, punk ass, sniveling pussy, bitch ass, nerd ass, scientist punk ass, namby-pamby, sissy pushover pansy ass fucking bitch shit. When you know that mankind did not evolve to be an Ebert scientist pussy. A man is more like a leopard, more like a falcon. He's meant to be a warrior. And you see that these guys lift weights and they're pussies. These guys are, nerdy pussies. These guys are big brute pussies, Ichabod Crane pussies, just assorted pussies. Then relative to nature and reality, in reality, they are bitch. He goes on to say the music of harpists and musicians, right? God's tune, God's natural rhythm and tune will never be found in them. Just artificial machine-forged garbage, abomination, filth. Pipers and trumpeters will never be heard in you again. No worker of any trade will ever be found in you again. The sound of a millstone will never be heard in you again. God's millstone, God's direction for your children will never be seen or heard or felt in you again. The light of a lamp will never shine in you again. A true spirit worth having, spirit of justice and righteousness. The voice of bride and bridegroom, true love, the true spirit of God in a marriage, it will never be heard in you again. Your merchants were the world's quote-unquote important people. By your magic spell, all the nations were led astray. Now, how many of you think it's a coincidence that it says all the nations were led astray? And in Matthew 18, it says that if anyone causes one of these little ones, those who believe in me, to stumble, it would be better for them to have a millstone hung around their necks. Not a coincidence. They led everyone astray, including the kids. Including their own kids. Because they're some kind of punks. In her was found the blood of prophets and of God's holy people, all who have been slaughtered on the earth. Not just in Israel or Rome. They like to chop it up to Russia and China. They say Gog and Magog and stuff like that. It's so stupid. So stupid. Okay? They're talking about you people. Not just Russia or China or North Korea, you stupid fuck. You propaganda pussy. They're talking about you. Especially as you lie and pretend it's somebody else and not you.